They will just do that some other time.
Okay. That's
Yep.
right. That's essential.
Thank you.
Because that in Spalding is known as the name of the letter. We don't even say necessarily alphabet. We say the name of this letter is A. The phonogram is A, There's a distinction. And even when we say the phonograms, we say the name of the letter. If we want to identify this letter, we say the name of this letter is A. But first, for the purpose of learning spelling and phonograms, it's A, I point to this, and the child doesn't say A only, he says A, Okay?
Is there a phonogram for every single letter of the alphabet? Like by itself?
We saw that the other day.
Yeah, but it's not like the complete alphabet. I haven't seen like A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
No, we
to
don't do
Z.
it. We do the consonants first,
Right.
and then the vowels. That's the 26 letters of the alphabet.
Yes.
That's how we approached it. So 26, the alphabet is covered first. And we started with the consonants, and then we did the 5 vowels. And then the combinations from that point.
I was just thinking for when you learn the alphabet, it's sometimes
A, B, C, D.
Yeah, like this. So to complement learning the name with a sound.
Not
Well, it's not
necessary.
okay.
Not necessary. Not necessary. Actually, at one point you want to divorce yourself from that because it gets in the way.
Okay.
It's a deeper understanding because the name will come up, especially the vowels, but it actually impedes the sounding out decoding. It impedes it. So obviously a child has to recognize the alphabet, right? For classification. Many things are alphabetized, indexes, dictionaries. The alphabet is essential. But beyond that, for decoding, for pronunciation, for spelling, phonograms take preference. So for a little child, he has to learn to switch his attention now to a higher level of understanding.
So it's
And he can do it.
It's two very different two
Yes.
different parts.
Right.
So then
Alphabet
it's
is there.
Not mixed up.
No.
A,
No,
it's too
no,
confusing.
absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's the biggest impediment.
Okay.
It's the biggest impediment. Okay. Any more questions? That's good. Questions, clear doubts. People are going to ask. Do you have a question?
Yes, Mataji. In some Indian schools I have seen, play schools, that they teach alphabets like this with the sounds. Like A says apple. B says ball. Like this.
All right, that's fine, but we're not doing that.
No.
Forget it. If we're going to follow something, you've seen something else, but just have a little faith in this program, and if you start incorporating other things.
So now how do we teach children like alphabets? The name of the letters they are taught separately, and this is phonograms are taught differently.
Right, you just say this is how we approach this system.
Yes.
Simple. If I carry in too much from another system, then I perhaps will get confusion. And it is more difficult if children have been exposed to other systems. Because, just like Julia or School of Music, they charge you twice as much money if you studied music before. Why do they do that? Because they have to untrain people and retrain them. So they're happier to have a person who's never had music. They charge you twice as much if you've had music. Normally you think, if I've had a musical background, I'm better off. No, you're not necessarily better off. You're just going to have to unlearn something that might be a bad habit or might get in the way of a better process. Maybe it's not entirely wrong, but it will get in the way of advancing quickly in a better process. So other processes should not be mixed in. Then you create confusion. And if the child brings it up, then just explain. If we follow this process, we have to follow it as it is. If we're going to start, and that's often a problem, even with teachers. They didn't want to. They got used to other methods, and they didn't want to adopt the whole process. And then obviously the results can be affected. It's an important thing. It's like Prabhupada said, as it is.
Yes.
No need to add more or subtract. He said that. And the minute you start adding and subtracting, what's your authority? And what are their results? And what are you going to get? And then you're speculating.
We get only prompts.
Right. And Prabhupada often mentioned the Juilliard school example. It's a fact. Somebody's had music, he pays twice as much. So your older children are going to be more of a challenge. They're going to ask questions just like this one. Why do we have to do this? And the teachers are going to ask, why do I have to do it this way? You have to be convinced that if I'm going to follow this procedure because I want the results, I have to do it as it is to be done. If I want to make a cookie and I decide to follow another recipe and mix the two recipes, maybe I won't get a very good result. At that point, it's concoction. Any doubts now?
No.
It's very important. Very. That's the minute it happens, oh, I'll be a little creative, I'll do something else. That's bad. It's very risky unless you're already a master. Very risky. The urge for creativity is there, but Spalding discusses that. She said creativity comes not in altering the process, but in thinking of better ways to teach it. Makes sense. It's there. The urge to be creative, the urge to do something in your own way is there in every living being, the creative impetus. And she addresses that concern. She says, creativity comes from figuring out, a more efficient way to present the process, not to alter it. Right? Do we come to Krishna consciousness and try to alter the regulative principles? We try to alter the instructions. We try to alter the program. If we do, we're not protected as much. The degree to which we alter something, we get less shelter. So if you want the full shelter of a process, then you follow it. Right, as it is. Any more questions along that? That's good. Let's come up. Doubts. Demons or doubts, right? Doubts or demons. Okay, so now we're going to begin. And first I will begin making the letters on the begin at 2 on the clock. And after that, we'll let Sri Yashoda read some of the more detailed explanations. Well, actually, it does begin with the positions on. So we'll let her start. Okay, so you have here in your book, on page, get my glasses on here, I can see so well. On page 19 of the book, at least this edition, we have the row of letters that begin at 2 on the clock. And below that, on the bottom of the page, is the dialogue for the very first phonogram, A-A-R. And we'll let Sri Yashoda do it, and we'll see how far we go, as much as time allows. I think there's a concern for getting all of this covered in the time we have. I think maybe we'll try one letter at a time, really large. Okay, so I'll put a top line here. Beginning, and I'll put a baseline here. And now, Sri Yashoda, you read loudly, and I'll follow your direction. You be the teacher, and the student's hand is to follow your example. Now, you would also be writing on the board as you spoke, but for this purpose now, since this is your first exposure, just so people feel comfortable knowing they have a complete reference here, like a recipe in a cookbook, for how to do something, okay?
When they say show card 1, would that mean the flashcards?
The flashcards, right. And we don't have those photocopied yet, but all right, okay.
Show card 1 and say the 3 sounds up, A, R.
Yeah, A, R.
Class repeats the sounds.
Yeah, A, R.
I will show how each letter is written. This is a short letter. Short letters fill the space between the midpoint and the base line. Form the letter without lifting the pencil. Start far enough in from the edge of your paper to make a clock face. Start at 2. Go up and around the clock, touching the base line and stopping at 2.
And 4.
2.
Oh, that means go straight up. Okay. We go straight up. At this point, in other words, we don't make a ball with a stick.
Okay.
So at 4, we go straight up to connect to 2.
Okay.
Okay? And then we retrace.
So the straight line down to the baseline. Guide as the children say the sounds and repeat the directions. The italicized
And for
directions.
the sake of the viewers here, I'm going to put a 2 and a 4. Now, when I came around, I did not touch the baseline. I should have done that, so I'm going to make another sample. But notice we do not use the ball and stick method. We do not go from 2 back to 2 with a circle. At the point of 4, we go straight up to 2, retrace without lifting the pencil, and come back down to the baseline. So let me do that one again. The pencil is not lifted. Okay?
So this is starting to go up and around the clock, touching the baseline and stopping at 2.
Yes, but if you notice, at this point, we go straight up from 4. It's not round. If you look at your model,
Yeah.
all right, so we'll do it again. Because if you remember that third clock, the third circle, when we were learning the reference points, you saw the dotted line.
Yes.
At that point, the circle is sliced,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Hold on, we'll do it again. Now, if you recall the instructions, you start far enough in, but you don't start over here or down this way, right? You start at 2 on the clock. Most of the letters that are round start at the position of 2. Midway, 2 o'clock, up to the midpoint, over to 10, down to 8, touching the baseline, curving back up to 4, position 4, then straight up, connecting, retrace, and down to the baseline. That is the letter A. And we say the phonogram A, A. All right. So let's try the next phonogram. It has reference points. Okay, our next phonogram.
Show class 2 and say the 2 sounds k, s. Class
Okay,
repeats
so-
the sounds.
K, S.
This is a short letter. It starts just far enough from A to make the clock face. I guess they mean the
Okay, we have
line.
another
Yeah.
right.
Start at 2, go up and around the clock.
Okay, and I'm going to repeat that now, because I would make my children say all the points.
Okay.
Up to the midpoint, around to 10, curve around to 8, curve down to the baseline, curve back up to reference point 4. So we have here a perfect k, s, 2, around to 10, down to 8, down to the baseline, curve back up to 4, then lift the pencil. Okay? K, s. All right?
Show card 3 and say the sound D. The
D.
class repeats.
D. So say the words, you and I will act as the class. We'll repeat, all right?
Okay.
D.
D.
Okay.
This is a short letter with a tall part. So that would be the short
Right.
letter with a tall part.
Right.
Form the letter without lifting the pencil.
Well, that's very important. The tendency is to do this, then pick up the pencil, and then spit, but you do not lift the pencil, all right?
Put your finger before the round part to show that the round part comes first.
Here. Okay.
Draw attention to the feel of the upturned tongue where it touches the upper ridge behind the teeth as the letter D is sounded.
D.
Say, start at 2,
2 o'clock, we start at 2.
go up and around the clock.
Okay, we go up to the midpoint, and I'm more elaborate when I teach this.
Yeah.
And we come around to 10, because if the children verbalize it, they will probably be more likely to do it. Otherwise, they just start just doing the normal shape, some abnormal shape. So we say over to 10, curve around to 8, reach down to the baseline, curve back up to 4. Now at this point, at 4, we slice the circle. We don't just make a circle and add a stick. That's ball and stick. That's not the way to do this. So from the position of 4, as in the letter A, R, the phonogram A, R, at 4, we push the pen, we push the pencils up, just below the line. Okay, and retrace. We lift the pencil at the end of the formation of the letter. Normally, you do this much, pick it up, and one lift of the pencil. Starting at 2, over to 10, around to 8, baseline, up to 4, push the pencil up and bring it down. Okay? That takes a lot of precision. All right. Excellent.
Okay, show card 4. Say the sound.
Everyone? Okay, we'll draw
Repeats the
the
sound.
upper line, and again, we'll draw the baseline.
Demonstrate on a clock where this letter begins and that it conforms to the width of a clock.
Okay? Starting over here at 2 o'clock, but above now.
Emphasize that the crossbar is formed in the direction in which we write. This is a tall letter. Start at 2, just below the line above.
Okay. 2 o'clock, and we're going to go a little bit below the line.
Without touching the top line, go up and around to 10
10.
and pull a straight line down to the baseline.
Right, so we have here like a little umbrella. Right? From 2 to 10, and pull down to the baseline. Okay?
You don't have to touch the top line.
No, you don't have to. I was doing it on the practice sheets with the children, just as a reference guide at the beginning. But technically, she does it, especially with older children, not having to touch the line. But I would have very beginning students do that just so that they learn to assess the difference between the midpoint and the upper space. Okay. But technically, she has children right away. But I found, especially with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, little ones, they needed to have the connecting lines as the reference points to get used to spacing. That was my own experience. Okay, go ahead.
Top line is never touched in any letter.
I beg your
It
pardon?
is not touched at all, like on other letters also, D.
Right, they don't touch at all. No, they don't touch at all. And again, I said that was my one exception when I worked in the notebook at the beginning, so the children would just get used to midpoint and spacing. Okay. So now we are allowed, when we have a cross piece, we are allowed to lift the pencil. We pick it up, and the cross piece, again, as she stresses, from the midpoint, it's above the midpoint, and in the direction in which we write. So we don't go this way, from right to left, we go from left to right, and we go above the midpoint slightly, and we do not put a large cross piece, we put a very small horizontal cross piece. Okay, we have a perfect.
Okay, one.
Card 5 and say the two sounds g, j.
Good, j.
Class repeats the sounds.
Good, j.
This is a short letter.
Let me just one moment, because we have a descender on this one, so I have to allow for that. I'll have to move the baseline up so we have a sufficient amount of space for the descending line. Okay, well, here we have our top line here. We're going to move our baseline up for this particular sample, and we'll make another line down here, equidistant. All right, now beginning.
Start at 2,
Okay, 2 o'clock. 2
go up and around the clock,
to 10, and we go around to 8, and back to the baseline, and we go up to 4. And now we go straight up, connect without lifting the pencil to 2, retrace, drop down, and I think I've made that space a little bit too big down there. We go halfway down actually to position 4.
same distance below.
The same distance below as one space, and we come back up to 8.
Round from 4 to 8.
8, okay? So if I mark this is 2, position 2, this is position 4. This point where the curve begins is position 4, and this is position 8. So we have 4 reference points in this phonogram. Good job. 2, over to 10 and around to 8, down to the baseline up to 4. Go straight up to 2, retrace, descend below the line, equidistant amount of the line to the position of 4, where the curve now starts. It's just the slice of a circle, right? They say whether your circle is 3/4 or 1/2, this is 1/2, lower 1/2, you see? And that means I begin at 4 reference point. I make that lower half of the circle, and I end this letter at position 8. So you see how these reference points create a completely uniform print. Everything is uniform. The reference points make every letter that has a partial part of a circle or a complete circle in it begins or ends at one of these 4 points. So the lettering is uniform and very attractive, and most importantly, easy to read. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Good job. Good job. Okay.
Show card 6 and say the 3 sounds. O, ooh.
Okay, we will repeat ah, o, ooh. Okay, here's our upper line, here's our bass line.
Class repeats the
Okay,
sounds.
o, ooh. All right, we start at 2 o'clock. Right, go ahead.
This is a short letter. Start at 2.
Okay,
Go up and around the clock.
up to the midpoint, around to 10, down to 8. Page touch the bass line, come back to 4, and curve around and connect at 2. And then you have a phonogram ah, o, ooh. Now when I taught, actually I said more than what they say. I had the children say all of the reference points even though they didn't start or stop at them. That way they're not bypassing that thinking process.
Yes.
I would say up to the top, over to 10, down to 8, curve around to the baseline, touch the baseline, up to 4. Initially that's required, because you saw even with the case of your son the other day, he was making things that were not the circle. They just immediately get into their habit. But unless the mind is instructing the hand, and it's repeatedly being insisted upon that they're using the guideline, the reference points as a guide. So saying it at each step. And I make them say it even in their spelling list until I see that they're actually thinking this as they write. Okay? Okay. Next time again.
Show card 7 and say the 2 sounds.
Okay, class will all say zzz. 2 sounds to this phonogram. This one has all the reference points. This is a difficult one, okay.
Start at 2.
Okay, we start at 2.
Go up and around to 10.
Open around to 10.
Slide across to 4.
Slide across to 4.
Directly below 2 in brackets.
Okay,
Curve down, touching the bass line and curving up to 8.
so see?
Directly below 10.
So we have 2, over to 10, curve around to 4, and we complete at 8. So it's so simple. Once they get this, every letter fits into the pattern. And the uniformity makes writing actually easier, and it makes recognition easier. Okay. That's what you want. You want the process to be easier, consistent, and you want the recognition to be easy. All right, next phonogram.
Okay. Show card 8 and say the sound qu.
Qua.
Class repeats the sound.
Okay, so now we have to adjust this sample here so we can take into account the descending line. We have a descending line in this letter, this phonogram, okay?
It takes 2 letters to say qu. Both are short letters. Each is formed without lifting the pencil. The tiny flag is formed in the direction in which we write. The second letter sits close. Start the first one at 2, go up and around the clock.
Up and around to 10, I'm sorry. Curve around to 8, touch the bass line, curve it up to 4. At this point, now we go straight up, right? We slice it. The straight line slices part of the circle, is not a tangent on the end of this edge of the circle. And we drop down the same distance as the short space, and we put the little flag on. We go halfway down and we put the little flag on in the direction in which we write. Just like that, a little flag, okay?
Mataji, in these letters, like earlier you said that top line is not to be touched, and in these cases, base line is not to be touched, or it
Well,
is to be touched.
I'm trying to make this is a short letter, and the tail is actually the same as this one. It's not down to here, right?
Yeah, they say the same distance.
The same distance as the short space, right? A 3-space letter has another portion here. This is a 2-space letter, right? You're covering a middle zone and a lower zone. Some letters are described as zones. So this letter has a middle zone and a lower zone. And some letters have an upper zone and a middle zone. And some letters may have all three. In script, you have script F. It has an upper zone, a middle zone, and a lower zone. So sometimes I would add that description from my handwriting analysis book of a letter. This one has, I often tell the children, this is the earth zone, and I would call this the sky zone, and I call this the water below the earth zone, the ocean zone, the water zone. So that way they knew which zone. This letter has two zones, middle, lower, the D, the D, and upper zone, middle zone. But we would say earth. I would add this earth, middle zone, sky, upper zone, and below the line, below sea level, lower zone. All right.
Okay, so for the next part, start at the midpoint with a short down line to 8.
Okay, but we don't go all the way down, right? At 8, we begin our half circle
Round from 8 to 4.
and come over to 4, right? And then we go straight up. We don't pick up the pencil. The tendency is to stop, pick up at the pencil. But actually, the interruption of that impedes good writing. So you just keep the pencil on the paper, go up, retrace to the baseline. Okay? So now we have the phonogram Kwa. Now do you see how all letters now after a point become very logical to construct? There's no speculation, and actually the process, if you know the reference points and the straight lines, they're actually easier to make because the child is completely clear on what he has to do. So and the letters all are uniform. Okay? Can you see the benefit of this? All right. Okay, I think we've completed
the first section.
Okay, we've completed the first section, which is clock-face letters that begin at 2. Okay, now on this page, if you want to hold this up for the camera. Now we have this page. We have manuscript letters that begin with lines. See, we have another classification here. Before, we started with the round portion of letter, the clock face. Now these are the manuscript letters that include a portion of the circle of the clock face, but they begin with a straight line. So that's going to mean a different reference point for the curved part. Okay? So now you can read the dialogue. You'll see they're the phonograms ba, e, ha, ja, ha, r, ayu, and ye, I. So it's all broken down for you. Okay, now we're starting a different classification for the handwriting exercise. All right, we begin here. Yes. All right.
Should I start here?
Okay. No, read this one here.
So, show card line and say the sound B.
Everyone should repeat now. Ba. Okay.
This is a tall letter with a short part.
Okay, tall letter with a short part.
The lips form a line when saying B.
Ba.
This helps you remember to start with the line when writing this phonogram.
Ba. So we have a line with the lips, and we have a line. We start with this one. We don't start with a circle and add the stick on the left. Okay. And some children usually start at the bottom and go up. That happens, and then that's a very hard habit to break. Okay.
Form the letter without lifting the pencil.
Okay.
Start at the top just below the line above. Pull the pencil down to the
Pulling
baseline.
it down, I always tell them pull it down, which is the natural direction of the line, pulling the line down.
Retrace to 10, curve around the clock to 2.
Okay, we come up back to position 10. We curve up to the midpoint, curve over to 2, curve around down to 4, coming on the way down to the baseline, and curving back up to 8. So now we've reversed it. We're starting at 10 on the side of it rather than at 2. Okay?
And she made this point that have all the children feel the line their lips make when they say B. The kinesthetic feel of the two letters B and D can keep children from reversing them. Do not teach them together, however.
All right, because those are often confused for beginners, and they don't know which side. So this one we start, we say ba, and that's a good memory trick. Start with the line because the sound ba makes a line on your lips. So we start with the line, not with the circle. Okay, that's a good tip. That's a good tip. Very nice. Okay. Okay, next phonogram.
Show card 10 and say the two sounds I, E.
Will everyone say e?
Put 9 and 3 on a clock face to show letter formation. This letter is short. Form it without lifting the pencil. Start midway between the height of a short letter and the base line.
All right, so this one has 2 more new reference points. It's unique. 9 and 3 for the midway line. So even though this letter is a short letter that occupies mid-space, right, it also is in the middle. The horizontal piece is midway. So this would be position 9 for the first horizontal stroke. So we start with the horizontal stroke at position 9, go over to 3, and now we curve up to 2, over and around to 10, you see, which is above 9, curving back down. I'll have to do this one again. I'm not actually right in front of me. We curve around to 8 and touch the baseline. So this one has 2 additional reference points, which in most cases are not necessary. Okay, so we start again with a horizontal line from 9 to 3, curve up to 2, up to the top, past 10, curve around down to 8, reaching the baseline, and up to 4. So I will mark these points. So here we have 3 and 9, as well as 2, 10, 8, and 4. Okay, this one's a little bit different. Looks like an eyelid. Okay, is that clear?
Show card 11 and say the sound H.
That's not finding impossible, but
This is a tall letter with a short part.
okay.
Form it without lifting the pencil. Start at the top just below the line above. Pull a straight line down to the baseline, retrace to 10.
Okay, we pull the line down to the baseline, we come back up to 10, not to the middle. Up to 10, we start curving at 10. The top of it stops at the middle, and then over to 2, and then we drop the line down to the
Pull a straight
baseline.
line down.
And you see how all your letters are completely consistent. Everything is completely consistent. And if the child has perfected the circle and the straight lines, actually the lines are straight, the circles are round, and he knows the starting and stopping points, he knows sequentially what to do first, he should be able to construct almost a graphics plate alphabet. Okay?
Show card 12 and say the two sounds I.
Okay, everyone will say it, I, it, not E-I, it, I.
I.
Very important distinction there. It, I.
This is a short letter. Start at the midpoint and pull a straight line down to the baseline.
Okay, so we start at the midpoint. This is simple. And we pull a straight line down to the baseline. Okay.
Make a small dot by pressing the pencil just above the letter and lifting it.
Okay, we're allowed to lift. And we just press with the pencil and make a small dot. We don't make some big circle or, okay. Right in line with the stroke. Okay. It, I. Anything difficult so far? No. It's very easy. This requires a little bit of, shall we say, a format that's followed. But once the format is mastered, then actually everything becomes common sense. You can see how a child could, you given the next phonogram, he could probably direct you. Okay, go ahead. Oh, I need to allow more space here. I'll put another line here in the middle.
Show card 13 and say the sound J.
J.
This is a short letter that goes below the baseline.
Okay, a short letter that goes below the baseline. Okay.
Start at the midpoint, pull a straight line down the same distance just below the baseline and round from 4 to 8.
Okay, so we start again with this straight line for J. Midpoint, we come down below to 4, right? That's where we curve. Below lines as well, 4.
From 4
And
to
we
8.
curve from 4 to 8. Okay, to 8. I think actually I'm not watching this, it's not so straight. The angle I'm not able to see as well. I don't want to block the camera. Hope you can see well enough. From the side I'm not able to determine the slant so well. Okay, starting from the midpoint, I pull a straight line down to the position 4, curve back up to 8. Now I'm allowed to lift the pencil, and I just press a dot in line with perfect show. Okay?
Short card 14 and say the sound K.
K. I didn't say K. All right, so we'll draw a big one now, a big sample.
This is a tall letter with a short part.
Okay.
Start at the top, pull a straight line down to the baseline.
Okay, and pull it down. All right.
Start the short part at the midpoint.
All right, now do they say about retracing? I know at this point I tended to lift it
They didn't
because
say
I don't say
retracing.
about retrace at this point. So what did they say, start at the midpoint up here, right, again?
Yeah.
Because I would just do a single stroke for the angle because you're creating an angle and attaching an angle line to the straight line. So we start over at the midpoint and you come
Slant
down.
down and in to the tall line, and then slant down and out to the baseline.
Like that. Okay? There you go. Good. Right, so 2 strokes there. From my understanding, you have to lift. I don't think you come back on. Because he says again, start at the midpoint. So the pencil obviously has to be lifted to put the angle against the straight line. Okay?
Show card 15 and say the sound ooh.
Ooh, this is going to be a really easy one, right? Nothing tricky about this one, okay?
Okay. This is a tall letter. Start at the top and pull a straight line to the baseline.
Very good. Oh. Okay, easy enough. So far, so good. We're almost halfway through the alphabet. It's not so hard, really, is it? But if it's taught systematically, then the children can follow.
And teaching it would be quite simple and
Yes.
easy. And,
Yeah. Without Edwards, but Spalding makes the point that the hand is directed by the mind. Without the information, the hand will not know what to do. The hand doesn't think, the mind thinks. So the mind has to be given the proper information to direct the hand. And the purpose of the teacher is to coach the child to the level of perfection. In other words, follow the instruction, don't disregard it, and see how close the child sample comes to the model, the sample. Okay, so now we have a
show card 16 and say the sound This is a short letter. Start at the midpoint and pull a straight line down to the baseline. Retrace to 10,
up to 10,
round from 10 to 2,
over to 2,
and pull a straight line to the baseline.
down to the baseline,
Retrace
retrace.
to 10, round from 10 to 2, and pull a straight line to the baseline.
The baseline. I think I got those 2 even. Let me try that one again. It's really important to have a proper modeling on the board for the children, because unless the model, the teacher has to be practiced in these skills as well. You know, if I saw, and there were sometimes the teachers disregarded the whole handwriting section. They just started, and they didn't model it, so will the children ever develop a good handwriting style? Not possible. They have to learn the proper steps, and they have to see it modeled, and they have to be coached until their practice reaches the standard. Okay, so again, we start at the midpoint, drop a straight line down. This is a short letter. We retrace to 10, start curving, over to 2, drop down to the baseline, retrace back to position 10, curve to the midpoint, over to 2, and drop down to the baseline. There we go. So we have the phonogram. Okay.
Show card 17 and say the sound
Sorry.
This is a short letter. Start at the midpoint and pull a straight line down to the baseline.
Okay.
Retrace to 10,
Retrace to 10,
round from 10 to 2,
around from 10 to 2,
and pull a straight line to the baseline.
and build a straight line down to the baseline. We have a perfect, see how every letter fits. And you can see how children can predict without the instruction. If you tell them a letter, after a certain number of letters, they can predict what is to be done. I saw that happen with first graders actually in Pathways. We did just a few sound demonstrations, and from that point on we went around the room and each child correctly predicted how the letters should be formed without any further instruction. So that's why it's not that hard to teach it. It's logical. Something logical is not difficult to learn. All right?
Okay, so card 18, and say the sound P. This is a short letter that goes below the baseline. Start at the midpoint, pull a straight line down the same distance below the baseline.
Okay.
Retrace to 10 and curve around the clock.
Retrace to 10. Curve around to 2. Continue curving around to 4. Now curve down to the baseline and curve up to 8. And I have a P. You notice how the letters all look consistent. Okay? Wouldn't you be happy if children would start writing like that? They do. They do. And even you as a model. I had line makers, chalk line makers. I've kept them, I think, all of them away. But you know how they have these holders for chalk, and they have 5 things. So I would put different colors of chalk in them, and on the board I would draw with a line, and that way I had just a line maker, and I could erase the board, and then I could follow right on the board. And just with one stroke, you can get 5 lines, or just 2 if you put 2 pieces of chalk in, or just 3. So I may have 1 left, but maybe I've given that away too over the years. But those are very handy. Musicians use them. Music teachers use them.
Yes.
That's how I had the idea. And somebody brought me some, and a carpenter made me more. I've given almost all of them away wherever I've gone. Maybe I have 1 left. I don't know. I'll check. Okay. It's a very handy device for chocolates. Huh.
Show card 19 and say the sound R. Class repeats the sound. This is a short letter. Demonstrate that it conforms to the width of the clock face. Start at the midpoint, pull a straight line to the baseline, retrace to 10, and round from 10 to 2.
Okay. Easy enough. Right? It's just like without the rest of it's all quite simple.
Show card 20 and say the sound T. Class repeats the sound.
T.
This is a tall letter. Form the crossbar in the direction we write. Start at the top and pull a straight line to the baseline. Draw a tiny crossbar just above the midpoint and lift the pencil.
Okay, T. She actually calls it a tall line. In some of the books I've seen it's almost like 3/4, but I guess we'll go all the way like that. I wasn't so worried that it was all the way to the top, okay? T.
Show card 21 and say the 3 sounds U, oo.
U, O. Okay. Think of the word put. It has that sound in it, put. Please put your pencil on the paper. That's so if you have a hard time with the sound, if you think of an application of put, like in but, and but, and then you, but, you, okay.
Class repeats the sound. This is a short letter. Start at the midpoint with a short down line to 8.
8 o'clock.
Round from 8 to 4, touching the baseline.
To 4.
Continue up with a straight line to the midpoint and retrace a straight line down to the baseline.
And there we go. Everything at this point becomes pretty logical. I don't think we'll have too many more situations that are unpredictable. I think we've covered. Okay, here we go. I still look at the end. This isn't taking that long because It's important for everyone to see every letter fits the pattern. All right, go ahead, next one.
Just cut one.